Thank you, Madam Judge. My name is Honorable Flawless. The motion is well stated that this House believes that children should be granted full access to social media platforms as a source of knowledge and information. The keywords in this motion are knowledge, information, social media. Social media platforms are apps like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. As a group, we have come up with only 3 views. I'll explain the first view. The next speaker will explain the second view, and the third speaker will explain the third view. Our first view is parents cannot watch all every time. How? When you're given access to social media as a source of information and knowledge, a parent can't watch you all the time to see what you're searching, you're doing. A parent will grant you that full access so that you can access to everything you want. For example, a teacher gave you a task of writing a letter and you did not understand very well, and even you did not get time to inquire from that teacher. You can go back home because your parents gave you full access to social media platforms. You can go back home and search. You search whatever you want. After all, you put the phone back if you're trusty and you're faithful to your parents. A parent can be in town. He or she will not get that full time to monitor you, what you're searching, what you're doing. Sometimes parents do you can live with your father or your mother. If you're granted a chance and you live with both of your parents, that's good. One can be in the kitchen cooking and another one is working. Some parents are soldiers, not granted. Some parents are soldiers, others are doctors. When they at work, if they give you full access to social media, you can search whatever you want, but concerning about books. The second speaker will explain some computer programs act as tutors, and the third speaker will explain it helps parents without school fees. Thank you.
2, 1. Full access to social media platforms. This basically means these specific children have the ability of accessing both the negative parts of these social media platforms and both also the positive parts. But notice, because of the social media algorithm, these children will most likely be exposed to the parts where it is negative, because notice, according to the personal interests of most people, they will desire to watch what is usually harmful and not important. Chair, notice in her speech she said that probably parents will not be there to watch whatever you are watching, which I think lies in our case, because yes, it's true, parents won't be there to watch what you're specifically watching. That means that you can even watch something that is harmful. Why? Because of how I've already explained how the social media algorithm works, in a way that even what is especially bad is what it's going to be like given to these specific children. The motion is saying that children should be granted full access to social media platforms as a source of information and knowledge. What I did not get from their speech is noticing that this is a policy motion. I did not get how you are going to make this possible, because this is a policy motion. I did not get that in your speech. The likelihood of what I've already stated will happen. As I've already explained, that social media works in a way that if you like a specific thing, that is what is going to bring on your For You page on probably that specific app, like probably TikTok or YouTube. So by the time children have full access of the entire social media platforms, that means they can access both the negative and the positive part of it. We do not disagree that probably these children might access that information and knowledge. We don't disagree. But what we are trying to portray is that they are most likely to have things that are harmful to these specific children. On principle of long-term impact, notice that this is the next generation of tomorrow. This specifically means that by the time a child accesses this harmful stuff, it will be of harmful impact to what? To the generation of tomorrow. And on principle of ethically and morally right, notice that it's not going to be ethical and morally right, because these children have full access. That means that a child can still decide to go and research about something that is bad. You talked about researching about books. Yes, we agree probably that child might research about books, but notice these children, specific children like in the age of 15 to 24 years old, these are people who are curious, they are exploring, they are adolescents. That means that they want to know more about things like sex, things that are not really educational. That means that at the end of the day, these children will be exposed to things that are not supposed to be of their age. At some point, you find that even when they don't want to access it, they will still access it because of the fact that I've explained in my agency that we have things like social media algorithm, which will still make these children unable to focus on the educational part of the social media platforms, instead focusing on the parts that are not going to be educational. My next speaker will emphasize on that and give you more impact of how it's going to be.
Thank you, Judge. My name is Honorable Ngesha Stewart, and I am on the opposition side, and I only have one view, only one argument, and it states the motion is stated that children should be granted full access to social media platforms as a source of information and knowledge, and I propose that that means I am supporting that motion. And my view is it helps parents without school fees. How? Now, if a parent cannot afford school fees, but he or she, that parent, has enough money to buy Wi-Fi, data, anything to access a phone, that parent will give his or her child that phone to access internet programs to search things that they don't know that people learn at school, and that which helps that child to to know all about that is talked about school. But when the parent has not spent a lot of money to 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 give that child to go to school. Thank you.
I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Chair. Team proposition comes and tells us on how parents that cannot access school fees will be helped, that these children will then access these funds. But then, Chair, notice that if a parent cannot actually access school fees, what they mean is that these parents will then access paying for data every month or paying for data every day. Chair, we need to understand that instead of that, even if you don't buy into that idea, we have things like government schools which are implemented by the government specifically to help these parents who cannot access school fees. So we think that does not stand. Going on to our points, Chair, protected time. Chair, we need to understand that, as my first speaker explained properly in her agency, that most of the information accessed on internet is bad due to the fact that the internet works on a principle of algorithm. Most of the information accessed by these children on the pages will not be educational due to the fact that the internet works on algorithm. Chair, we need to understand that if these people are then allowed to have full access to this particular maybe information and knowledge, we need to understand that probably, let me give a scenario, by the time a child then goes on the internet, we believe that the algorithm then sends on what is liked by most people. And what is liked by most people, Chair, we need to understand that the people who commonly use these particular devices are the teenagers. These are teenagers who are mostly accepted.
As you move to saying that government schools can afford money for children, but not that all government schools are like that. Some government schools require money like for uniforms, requirements, and many others.
If you had listened properly to my speech, we will then get the fact that a parent will then, what you mean, that a parent will then access money to buy data for these particular children daily, but then not access the money paid by these government schools, which are probably put specifically to help these poor people. And that is what, if you would have listened properly, you would have got it. As I was still explaining, this will then help on the metric of principle. It isn't morally and ethically right for these children to access videos that can lead to cultural degradation. How? Chair, we need to understand that as I have already explained, that these people will get access to these maybe pornographic videos, due to the fact that these teenagers always, for example, like these particular videos, then the algorithm will send them viral, which means by the time a child then accesses the phone and tries like to go on TikTok, the first videos that will come will be these particular videos that then show things like pornography, which then leads to what? To cultural degradation. With that, I'll end my speech.
I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. As I start my speech in 3, 2, 1. My name is Irakaze Anna, and I rise to propose the motion that says this House believes that children should be granted full access to social media platforms as a source of information and knowledge. My first argument is computer programs act as tutors. For example, a child has access ChatGPT. What is climate? If the child is given little time to access social media, the child won't go deeper to understand climate. That's why we say children should be granted full access to social media platforms.
One, check. We think that parents, okay, they say that we think that parents cannot then watch these pupils every time at a moment of life. But then we think, as our first speaker explained, they are then giving a point that then lies then in our world. So we think that we cannot agree with that point. And then even if their third speaker comes and say that, oh, this sort of like these social media platforms act as tutors then this to their children, these children will go deeper and understand what the teachers explain. But then look, we think that most of the analysis that then is given by these social media platforms is then complex. You do not expect a child of then primary 4 to primary 5 who cannot even sort of like understand some complex matter then to understand these particular things that these social media platforms are then giving to that child. So I can't buy into that idea still. But even if they say that, when we go back to our homes, they can help us research, then do sort of like that work. But then we think that particularly we can then visit our teachers and then they help us in what we don't understand, than then rather going to social media platforms that are then going to give us even information that we are not able to understand. So we think that we cannot buy into that point still. But what are the clash points of today generally? We think that they are trying to argue to show us then why is then these people using social media platforms then as a source of education and knowledge then more important in their side. But then we think that in our world, we think that more information, we then think that in our world where these children will then go to access things like teachers who will then help them to sort of like discover their problems and then sort of like solve them. But by giving them information that then can be suitable for them, we think that this information is then more important than then in their world. So that's why we think that these children getting more information than then will be helpful to them is better in our world. Look, Chair, as then our first speaker explained in her agency, she clearly states that the algorithm of then the social media platforms works by then these popular things that are then being watched by then these particular people are then the things that are then sort of like being shown then to these particular children. We think that if we don't groom these children and then we access them to things like social media platforms, that then will not help in then their grooming, due to the fact that they say that the parents are not then particularly there then to monitor or supervise them when doing their specific jobs. We think that these children will not be favored, and then they will be like doing a disservice to them. So how is it impactful then to the students? We think that when we grant these students access then to social media,
at the end of the day, what is the main stakeholders in this entire debate? The main stakeholders were the children, not the parents, of which probably proposition failed to interpret. We are trying to solve the issues that children are facing, of which it fails to interpret. Number one, as team negative, we have clearly stated that probably this social media algorithm will be of a very big disadvantage to these particular children because you're giving full access to the social media platforms. That means they will access both the negative and the positive parts, of which the negative ranks higher than the positive ones. And since these children have the thinking of things like curiosity, things that want to know more even about things that are bad, they'll still access the things that are bad. But what are we having in our world? We're having things like long-term impact to the extent that even in the generation that is going to come, we're going to have children that are not basically immoral or think about only things that are not educational. So in their world, they're portraying non-educational stuff and things that will be of disadvantage to the next generation.
Teachers. What if it's a new math teacher? When he's a man, you have not yet understood that teacher. How can you trust your girl to go and visit that teacher? What if that teacher, he was once a rapist and rapes that girl? And you said about pornography. If children are trusted, they will not search such videos to watch pornography. If they were raised well, they would not search pornography videos, people doing sex. They would not go into deeper those if they were trusted and they are faithful to their parents. They would search things that are important, that were taught by their teachers, things such as letter writing. If you did not understand the topic about climate weather, thank you.